if anyone can cut a deal, it's Melania Trump, and that she is in control of the life that she lives, certainly within her marriage and within that household. So I think it was really like a projection into her privacy, that free Melania thing that we did to her.
The documentary follows the First Lady through the 20 days leading up to her husband's second inauguration, promising behind-the-scenes access to a life usually kept carefully out of view. But audiences, it seems, as John said, are staying away, or at least they're not booking early to avoid disappointment. In London, reports suggest a particularly sparse turnout. It was just a single ticket sold for a mid-afternoon screening of tomorrow's premiere. I think in that particular theatre house, it's now 3 tickets that have been nabbed. Let's talk to Megan Agnew, senior features writer at The Times. Megan, a very good afternoon to you.
Hi, how are we doing?
We're doing very well indeed, actually. I'm curious about this documentary and I probably will go to see it. I know that I won't see all of the things that I want to see, but I'm I suppose I go open-eyed into this. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, calling it a documentary is potentially a little inaccurate. Melania had total control over this, from my conversations that I had last week with the people who are involved with selling it, making it, working on it alongside her, to the extent that she was positioning cameras on set. She had a say in the cut of the trailer, which we just heard, particularly that line she was keen on including, of her sort of like saying to the president, we'll talk about it later. I haven't watched it yet. And she was doing color correction. She had lots of opinions on how it was marketed. I mean, this is really her movie, and she sees it as a movie rather than a documentary.
Okay, well, I don't want her on my back, so let's call it a movie. I mean, what's the point of this? Because, as you say, it is very much her telling us what she wants to tell us, and it's the stuff that she doesn't want to tell us that we want to know.
I think during the first administration, she felt like her image was quite out of her control. And I think what she's doing in the second administration is asserting as much control over it as she can. And we saw that to an extent this time last year when she released the Melania memoir, which again didn't quite get to the point that everyone maybe wanted her to make. And you see it again now, and you can even see it in the imagery. I mean, like, they're plastered everywhere, the billboards, but it's her in these black and white photographs in these suits. She's wearing lots of like trouser suits and high heels and shirts. And it's much more business-like. It's much more direct. She's sat down with her agent and with her team. And this has been a very conscious move into this sort of monochrome era from more like pastel. I mean, they had like black and white macaroons at the screening on Saturday night and black and white cake pops. This whole era for her is about being black and white and serious and businesslike.
Okay. I remember a time, Megan, when we seemed to think of Melania in a very different way. And I do remember being on a march, actually, in London in 2017. There were a lot of placards. It was where the Melania blink and we'll come and get you stuff came from. And there was an idea that she was almost being held against her will in the role that she was playing. When did that change, and why did we ever think that was true?
Yeah, there was the sort of free Melania era, wasn't there, of that first administration. And I think maybe we projected that into her silence. And maybe people hoped that that was the case, that her reserve was actually her distaste for her husband's politics. But I think at the beginning of this administration, I mean, she was not on the campaign trail in the summer of 2024 for her husband. And I think she made it very clear that she didn't really want to be. She didn't talk at the RNC. She appeared briefly. And I think in that period of time, what's become clear from the conversations that I've had with people who work with her and who have followed her as journalists and spent time with her is that if anyone can cut a deal, it's Melania Trump, and that she is in control of the life that she lives, certainly within her marriage and within that household. So I think it was really like a projection into her privacy, that free Melania thing that we did to her.
Yeah. Is there much evidence that she really is a force for good? No matter what anybody might think about her politics, is she doing charitable work for things she believes in that we maybe don't talk about enough?
Well, this administration, she's been more absent in many ways. She hasn't been doing quite the same number of First Lady appearances. She hasn't been to any other countries other than the US with her husband. She's been pretty private, either in the White House or in Manhattan or in Mar-a-Lago. But she has seemingly been more specific about the causes that she's got behind, and seemingly has had success with. So she wrote a letter to Putin in August, and since then has been pretty central to the release of Ukrainian children from Russia back to their families in Ukraine. There have been dozens of those reunifications now, which she was very, very keen on making happen. And she also sort of fought hard for this money from the government to help kids coming out of foster care. And she also put her name behind a bill related to AI deepfake imagery and making that illegal on a federal level. So she has actually had, which is all supposedly under the umbrella of Be Best, which is her campaign carried over from the first administration. They're all quite random projects, but they have been specifically quite successful.
Okay, and I suppose the thread there, Megan, is Melania wanting to say that she can be a voice for children. But I mean, there are some very obvious examples and recent examples of children not being treated particularly well by the Trump administration. You know, notably some of the kids of the people who've been taken off the streets by ICE. So that kind of difficulty, some would call it a hypocrisy. Is that picked up on at all? Enough? Is it trodden on? What happens to that?
I think the peak of that was this Saturday when her husband's administration was dealing with the fallout from the terrible shooting in Minneapolis. And there was this glamorous film screening of Melania's movie at the White House with black and white cake pops and macaroons. It was such dissonance between the two things. And I think that's deeply uncomfortable. And I also think that it's probably indicative of something that I've been told again and again, which is that the East Wing and the West Wing, particularly under Trump and Melania, operate almost completely separately. So whereas in previous administrations, there's communication between the two to make sure that they're on the same message, they're detached from one another pretty entirely. And I do think Melania feels uncomfortable, but you're right, she is still married to a president who is acting in ways that undermine or perhaps in opposition to the things that she apparently stands for.
She did wear that jacket with a slogan, didn't she, when she was visiting in earlier deportations, children who were being kept by the administration because of immigration, criminality or difficulties.
Yes, which was apparently a message to Ivanka, which obviously just became completely misread and was just a terrible message, political message, horror. It's really the thing that stands out actually in your mind, I think, from that first administration with Melania. But I spoke to people, to journalists who covered that administration with her and went to the events that she went to. And one of the things that they all said was that she does have more warmth than you initially think from the outside, particularly one-on-one with those people when she does go to do visits. But yes, she's really got the political messaging very wrong at points.
What do you think she does after her husband is no longer in office? What's her kind of second life?
I think this is all about brand Melania. I think she is capitalizing on something that she might not feel totally comfortable with, i.e. being in the White House, to gain herself at some point or another. I think she is defining herself somewhat separately to her husband and building up what her agent called a luxury brand, which I assume she'll take forward in the future.
Oh my goodness, are we going to see spreads coming from her, conserves we can't call jam, flour sprinkles?
I think it'll be more sort of like spiky stilettos rather than nice, happy, cheerful, glittering jam.
Yeah, and wide-brimmed hats, so a man can't kiss you. Thank you very much indeed. That's Megan Agnew, senior features writer at The Times, and quite a lot of people this afternoon. And it's a really fair point saying, don't watch the documentary. You know, it all plays into something that we shouldn't be part of. Sometimes I'm just going to confess my curiosity gets the better of me. And it may happen. I'm just warning you, it may happen. But I tell you what I could do. I could watch it so all of you don't have to. And I'll come back and do a little review.
Yes.
And you don't have to join in and feel
take one for the team.
Maybe a little bit dirty.
You can do it. I'm surprised you just dismissed the idea that Melania might just happily retire to Mar-a-Lago with her lovely husband Donald. Well, and just, you know, they're very much in love, and they will see out his dotage together. But no, you've completely ruled that out. I don't understand it.
It's as if I'm reading into something, you know, the fact they don't spend very much time together at the moment, Jane. Why am I doing that?
I don't know.